And we have life out of the broken pieces of past attempts. And that's what grace looks like a lot of times. A lot of times we get to walk out a picture of grace. When we got together, I would tell him, this is something that I really, really want. And he was like, okay, we can do that. But then we found really quickly that it wasn't quite that simple. And we got declined for house loan after house loan. We tried, and we used to go out, and this was one of our pastimes whenever we were dating and we were first early married. We would go look at houses on land. And I can now drive through the area in central Arkansas, and I can pass by the houses, and I can still tell you where I would have put the garden. In those houses that I used to sit in the driveway and just cry because I couldn't have it. It was impossible. It was an impossible thing. A couple of weeks before we found our house, we were actually on a date night. We were at Barnes & Noble, and our date nights were to go get a cup of coffee and read books without buying them, because remember, we didn't have a lot of money, we have a lot of kids instead. And so we were on this date night, and we were reading these books, and I will never forget, it was a book, it's called The Backyard Homestead, if anybody's ever heard of that book, and I was open to the page, and it was talking about pigs, pig breeds. And I started crying crocodile tears in the middle of Barnes & Noble, and just falling all over this book on pigs. Because it was impossible. It was impossible. I couldn't make it happen. We couldn't get the loan. We couldn't find the house. We were in a place in town that we couldn't tear up the yard. We couldn't do a garden. I planted peppers and beans and everything on all my flower beds because I had to use what was existing. So you would come up my front porch and there was peppers and beans all on both sides because I was just so desperate. I was so desperate. And I read everything I could. I knew everything, but I couldn't make it happen. I wanted to make it happen, and I couldn't make it happen. And I remember that night at Barnes & Noble, and I want to say it was about the next day or two, that Maya and I sat in our bedroom, and I said, listen, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to be content, because God has been good to me, and I'm going to make the most of where I'm at, and I'm going to learn everything I can, I'm going to do everything I can, and I'm just going to be content. And I'm going to know that if it's important to me, it's important to him. It doesn't always work out this neat. This was one of those instances where it was just instant, and then it's oh yeah, that makes a great story. It was a couple weeks later we actually found our house. We weren't looking. My dad asked me to give him a ride one day and ended up passing this house, and he said, hey, you should look into that, which that house didn't work out, but it led to another one. And it was one of those things. It was just one of those things where one thing led to another, and the next thing we knew, we had bought this house. It was a foreclosure, badly vandalized, completely unlivable. The money that we needed just happened to come through at just the right time. I mean, it was the only thing I know how to tell you. And the whole time that we were hoping that this house was going to come through for us, I kept leaning on Ephesians 3:20, that God will do infinitely more than we might ask or think. That he'll do infinitely more than we might ask or think. And I would think, God, I really, really want this house, and I know if this is you, I know nothing can stop it. So we closed on the house. It was about this time, 5 years ago, we closed on this house. And we worked our butts off. Maya, I don't think he slept for 10 days or something, because we were trying to get all these repairs done so we could move in and escrow and all that stuff. We get it all done, miraculously. The money's there, the loan goes through. It's just crazy. Even the lady, when we're signing the papers, she's like, somebody upstairs must want you to have this house because this is nuts. This deal is nuts. And I'm like, yeah, I know, it is. And we're moving, April 27th, 2014, we're moving into this house. And we got the U-Haul, we have the friends, we have the borrowed truck, everything is in there. I'm like, it's here, my homestead, my dream, the dream of my life. Here it is. We unload the U-Haul, we're grilling the hot dogs, we're going to feed all the people, and the sirens start going off. And, everybody take cover. We have a basement. We all go in the basement. But this wasn't one of those storms. You grew up in Arkansas, you're used to storms. You can blow it off. I mean, I had memories growing up of storms, and it was never that scary. Mom was always a little freaked out, but, we just hung out in the bathtub with the mattress over us, and that was fun. It was like making a tent. And so, to me, it was not a big deal. We have all these people that are helping us move, 35 people at our house. U-Haul still in the driveway, barely got everything out of it. And we realized this storm is going to hit. And it didn't hit my house. It hit about 3 miles from it. And one of my best friends lived out there, and she had 2 little boys the same age as my sons at the time. They were 7 and 8. And they were my son's best friends. And they were supposed to come help us move, but we didn't need the extra help. We had so many people that showed up. And so we told them, don't worry about it. And her sons died that night. We couldn't get a hold of her. And so Maya, because we live so close to them now, we just moved out there, super excited, we're going to be neighbors. And he ran down the road to check on them, and he actually found these boys. And my friend ended up living. She ended up able to walk. She was in a wheelchair for a while. But this crazy thing happened, where my dream, which used to be impossibly big, became insignificantly nothing in light of eternity. And that week, my friend April, from her hospital bed, having lost her sons, proclaimed the goodness of God. She wouldn't back off of it. Everybody's like, she's done, she's ruined, she'll die. Like, I mean, who could live when you lose a child? Both your children, all your children. And she proclaimed the goodness of God, and she wouldn't back off of it. And here I am. I didn't know if I could proclaim the goodness of God. Now, sure, he had just made my dream come true. The biggest and the greatest thing that I had ever asked God for, he made it come true, and then within 30 minutes, it felt meaningless. So April blew my mind talking about the goodness of God, and I actually left the hospital after talking to her and realizing that because she was anchored in eternity, she was going to be okay. And my mind was blown because I couldn't fathom it. I could not manage to say God is good. Danny talked earlier about being angry and how God actually can handle that. He can handle our anger even at him. And I was mad. I really was. I was mad. And I went home and my mind's reeling, how is this lady saying this? How is this going to be okay? And I wrestled it out. And I don't know if you've ever had a wrestling night with God. But if you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that was a wrestling night with God. And at about 4 that morning, I got up, I went to my kitchen table, and I started to write an article. And I published it. You know, I stopped at one point, made some bowls of cereal, nursed the baby, you know, probably loaded the dishwasher. Just completely normal life. And I tell the story about this woman whose kids died, but God was still good. Like, and actually, oh my God, this is for real. He's still good, even with this. And I pressed publish on this article for my blog. I mean, I've written on my blog like 30 times in 5 years. Like, I'm the worst blogger in the world. The fact that I have a YouTube channel I actually post on is a miracle. Like, you got a lot to do. And here I am, this infrequent blog that nobody really reads. And I shared on Facebook one time, and by the next night it had 2.9 million hits. Was on the front page of Yahoo. Like, I'm talking like viral, not like just a little bit, but like the Associated Press is knocking on your door in the middle of nowhere, and you just moved there, and you don't even know how they know your address, like that kind of viral. And so within a week, April's kids could never be given back to her. But within a week, the internet had raised $300,000 to give to them so that they wouldn't have to be without a home, that they wouldn't have to be without their stuff. And all these people are learning about the goodness of God, and they're getting saved, and these crazy testimonies are coming in, and we're shell-shocked, and we're just like, what? We haven't even unpacked into our dream come true. And that weekend after, I went out to photograph the rubble of her house, her street. It was gone. The whole street was gone. And her house was on a slab, and it was just gone. It was like a 4-bedroom brick house. This was a big tornado. And I was standing where her son's room had been. Like, and I had been in this room like a week before. Like, my kids stayed over there, and I went to pick them up and went in this room and showing me something. And I'm standing there, and I'm looking out on this valley. And what they're doing to clean it all up is they're just piling this stuff up in these monstrous piles, and they're burning it because it's ruined anyway. You know, they're going through looking for like mementos and photos and stuff. But for the most part, it's just ruined stuff. And so they're burning these massive piles, and there's like a boat in the, like a nice boat. I mean, like that set somebody back. some money, and it was sitting in the middle of this field. And boats out of water is just a weird thing. It's not in the right place. And so it's in the field, the cars, the houses are gone, the burning piles of things that everybody had worked for their whole lives. And I'm just standing there watching it, and I'm looking around, and I'm taking it all in. This moment was one of the most marking moments of my entire life. And I still remember the smell of it, the smell of what it smells like for people's whole lives to be burning in piles with a boat next to it. And I'm sitting there smelling it, and I'm looking at it. And I had this thought, this audacious thought. I could dance here on the foundation of this dead boy's room, in the middle of everything people have worked for, burning in piles. I could dance here because this is not all it is. This is not the end of the story. Right here is not the end of the saddest place I've ever been. It's not the end of the story. And my life changed in that moment, in the saddest place I have ever been. The saddest thing I've ever seen, the most hopeless feeling I've ever felt. Do you know what it's like to lay your babies in bed and put them to bed? When you know it could have been them? It's awful. Fear's going to eat you up in that moment, or it's not, and you got a choice to make. But when I realized I can dance here in this sad place, I can live past this, there's more than this. Something changed in my mind. And I was no longer living in a temporary situation. Because let me tell you, if that was a temporary situation, forget about it. That was the end. Close the book. You don't move on past that place. But it wasn't. It was chapter 3. It wasn't the end. There was still so much more. Since then, it's been 5 years, 5 incredible years. There's been sadness. Very sad things. Traumatic things, hard things. But not the end. No end pages have been lived between then and now. And no end pages will be lived between now. There isn't one. There is no the end page. Because of Jesus. And let me tell you, the reason I came here today was not just to preach that to you, but I don't know how to tell you anything without first telling you I'm not with an end page. Because I want to tell you to dream huge. This morning I woke up and I'm like, what am I going to talk to these people about? I have no idea what to talk to these people about. And I kept thinking opportunity. And I'm like, opportunity? I don't think a lot about opportunity, to be honest. Because here's the thing. Opportunity, I had the definition because I was like, what exactly is opportunity? What is that? What does that exactly mean? Oh, I had to look up Reckless Love lyrics. So let me find opportunity again. I have this together. I was going to have it together at this moment, but instead, we're doing this. Opportunity, a set of circumstances that makes it possible to do something. I want you to take opportunity out of your vocabulary. You can just wrap it up in the end page and torch it. Because opportunity does not apply. Opportunity does not apply when we have Ephesians 3:20 promises. Because if we've been told infinitely more than you might ask or think, we're not waiting for opportune circumstances to make something happen. Do you want to know why I love seeds? Because every single one is a promise. Now, you could look at a seed and think, well, I've got to figure out how to set up the circumstances and how to set up the soil and how to set up this. And that's true. We have to work. We have to work with our dreams. We have to work with our promises. We have to partner with them and give them a place to grow. But every single one is a promise. We don't have to live inside of a realm of opportunity. Right now, the end cap and the ceiling on our lives are what we're willing to dream for. And let me tell you that if you're thinking, well, one day I'm going to have the farm, and one day I'm going to be able to quit the job, and one day I'm going to have more time to pay attention to my kids, and one day I'm going to be able to have that. You can live your whole life waiting for one day, and the next thing you know, you'll be on an end page, and the opportunity that you will been waiting for will be gone. But if instead you say, I don't live by opportunity, I have a promise of infinitely more. If someone walked up to me and said, I will give you an amount of money. I have all the money you could even possibly imagine. I have infinite resources. And I'm going to give you infinitely more than you will even ask for. So whatever you say, I'm topping it. I am not asking that dude for $100. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to think of the biggest number I can think of with the most zeros that I know is a legitimate number. And I'm going to say that one. For real though, like, right? I mean, that he's asking. He's asking. He's got it. What are we doing? What are we doing waiting for opportunities, for circumstances to make something possible? Right now, let me tell you, I won't go too deep into it. Right now, in this moment, in this hour, God is setting people up on media platforms who are not afraid to say his name. Right now, in this hour, God is looking for people who he can display his goodness on. The glory of God is the goodness of God. Moses said, let me see your glory. And God said, I will make all my goodness pass before you. The goodness of God. Do you want to be a billboard for the goodness of God? Do you want him to be glorified through you? Why is it that the good news is such a hard pill to swallow? It's because we think we deserve punishment. Because we're so hard on ourselves. But God is looking for somebody to just partner. And let me tell you, I want to validate. I came here to water some seeds. That's just really the only thing that I've ever found that I'm really, really good at is growing things. And it really has nothing to do with me, but I'm just so confident that they were made to grow. I'm just so confident in seeds that they were made to grow. And I'm just so confident in dreams that if somebody will come along and say to those dreams, hey, take the cap off that. Quit waiting on the opportunity. What can you do today? And I know I'm preaching to the choir here because you're here. I mean, the people desperately waiting for a homestead, they don't come to homesteading conferences unless they're like about it, like you're doing it. But I want to tell you that you don't have to live your life with an end page, and you don't have to live your life waiting for circumstances to change. Because in the very midst of me feeling like my biggest dreams were impossible, I learned that my biggest dreams were sidelines. And truly, when your biggest dreams become sidelines, you realize how small you're dreaming. When they start coming true, when you're 33 and literally everything that you've ever asked God for, not supposed to have kids. I've been in an abusive marriage. The fact that I get to be happy now, do you know how much I used to desire that? And now I just get to have it. I get to have healthy babies and a healthy body. I get to have a farm. I get silly pigs and goats in my yard. Even my dog. I mean, little stuff that God sees the desires. He sees those details. Yeah, the alpacas, they're coming one day. Y'all are going to see me have alpacas. You're going to say, how gives that girl everything she asked for? Y'all all look at Jeremiah now and shake your head. For real though, he's in the business of making dreams come true whenever we make ourselves about his kingdom. He's in the business of doing these things, and right now he is calling people back to the land. He is calling people back to the garden. He is calling people back into relationship and back into friendship that's sincere, like to really love one another. To really choose people, to walk the walk with them, to lay down your life for them. This is what he's calling people to, and I promise you that when you make this your business, you just buckle up. But stop worrying about the opportunity. Stop worrying about trying to make things happen for yourself. Wake up every single morning and say, okay, Lord, what can I do today? What can I learn today? Who can I bless today? Where do you want me today? And understand that even when it feels like everything is falling apart, when you wake up I call those insurance prayers. I wake up every morning and pray insurance against my own self. But if you think you've messed up God's will over your life, I'm sorry to tell you, you're just not that powerful. Every morning, Lord, today, what is it? And you don't know what kind of seed you're planting. You don't know the seed you're watering in other people. But if I could water anything in you, it would be to dream and to have that conversation and to not give up and stop living this life like the end of yourself that's it, because it's not. And the saddest place you've ever been, it's not the end. And today is not the end. And even when you hit those goals and you hit those dreams, that's not the end either. Because we can mark off the list of everything that we've ever wanted, but if we don't find this first, it will be meaningless. So, Brian, do you want to add anything to that? All right. I'm not good at wrapping things up, so when I'm done kind of out of steam. Andy, thank you guys so much.
Amen. This is an awesome lady here, y'all. This girl is awesome. Come on, give her a hand. She just poured her heart out to y'all. God spoke through her. I felt it over there. The things that she talked about, I understand, because my wife that passed away lost 3 kids in a car accident at one time. And we traveled everywhere in this world doing PowerPoints, talking about the 7 stages of grief and how you get beyond things. God was good. Even though he took her home, she went home to be with what she lost. And you know, as she talked about it's so easy for people to be angry. Yeah, it's easy to be angry with God. But God made us. He knows that's our temperaments. And he understands it. And I think he expects it. We wouldn't be human if we didn't do it. But you know, he's good. He's always good. Thank you, girl. I really appreciate you. Okay. What are we doing now? Kid giver, what is that? Kid giver? Who's that? Oh, you made us a flat glass. Okay. I love the box. Oh, candy corn. Oh, cool. The Gathering, March 9, 2019. Garden like your life depends on it. What? Because it does. That's beautiful. Thank you, Daryl. I really appreciate it. Miss Sherry, thank you so much. Yeah, this is what it's all about. It's about. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am. I'm used to being able to get up on my own. One day she'll be doing that to me, I'm sure. So, I'm not looking forward to that day. But this is really what it's all about. It's about coming together as a community. That's what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to build a community in this, not just our area. We're trying to build a community in the nation. Because we were founded upon God's principles. It's something that we've gotten away from here lately. Some of our states that's represented here today will understand what I'm talking about when we just passed a law in some of the states of late-term abortion. You know, which I don't even know how to explain that. When the nation of Israel, God gave us the nation of Israel in the Bible as an example for us. When the nation of Israel would shed innocent blood for children, they would give them over to Dagon and Moab, all these gods that they had out there, Molech and all these things for them to be sacrificed on. God would always come in. You can read the Bible, you can check it out, you don't have to take my word for it. God would always come in and send them into captivity of some sort. And I'm here to tell you that if he doesn't do something soon to the nation of America, or the United States, he's going to have to stop and apologize to Sodom and Gomorrah for what he's done to them. We're living on borrowed time. And just like Jessica said, God is calling together a people, I believe, in these, I don't never say the end times because I don't believe it is the end time. If you know Scripture, you know we have a long time left to go. but it can be the end of an age. And I believe we're nearing the end of that age. And I believe that God is calling together a collective group of people. We may not all be together all the time, but where we're at in our part of the world, we can and will be an outreach or a light for those people that are around us. Because they will be looking for someone who can make sense out of the chaos that's going on around them. And if we're who we should be, and we're that light that we need to be, then it's very possible that you, my friend, might be the very one that reaches a multitude of what's left out of the chaos. Any of you who know the book of Revelation know the end of the story. It's very controversial to stand up and say what will or will not happen during the book of Revelations, because a lot of it is simple symbolism, speculation. There's lots of things that goes on in it. But we do know there are certain phrases that's made in it. We do know that there's places talked about like Mystery Babylon that's spoken of, and it's called mystery, and that's for a reason. We do know that the Scripture teaches us that it will burn in 1 hour. And sometimes the Scripture says what it means, and it means what it says. You don't have to interpret that. The Jewish culture and the Middle Eastern culture, not necessarily just Jewish, but the Middle Eastern culture, it wasn't until that time that my eyes were actually opened, and that the Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, if you want to call it that, could actually come in, and it could actually speak to me. Because it wasn't until that point that I could actually allow it to, because I got self out of the way. I got tradition, because tradition was one of the greatest hindrances in my life. A certain way, and because of certain traditions that I was taught, I was blinded. I could not see beyond a certain point in Scripture. I had my mind made up because of what I had already heard as to what I thought the Scripture actually meant, because it's what I was told. And after all, if it's what you're told, you're supposed to believe it, right? Well, no, that's not true. When the Spirit comes upon you and it actually speaks to you, it's at that point you actually get it. And your eyes, it's like the Apostle Paul when he off the road to Damascus there, and the individual had to go and had to lay his hands on, had to pray to remove from his eyes, and he could actually see. What at that point did he actually realize? God took a man who persecuted him from one end to the other, and literally turned a man that was a tremendous persecutor of Christian people, burned them at the stake, put their heads on stakes, and he had them massacred by the numbers. Even Stephen was stoned by this very individual, and took him and turned him around to a person who was on fire for him. God can do anything. And just like Jessica said, I wanted to preach with you. I did. I wanted to get up and just go for it. And I loved her. I mean, she's great. And we want to put God in a box. And I wanted to go with that, because you talking about we limit him. I felt like you wanted to say we just limit him so many times. We put him in a box because we say we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't live our dreams anymore. There's nothing in this world that says you can't do anything that anyone else has ever done. You have 24 hours in a day, just like anybody else has ever had. You have the same God that Elijah had back then when he called fire down out of heaven, and he consumed the water around the sacrifice, and he turned around and he killed 600 of Baal's worshipers right after that. And then the man ran off into the desert and went into a cave, and he cried and said, God, I'm the only one left. And God said, no, you're not. There's 7,000 more down there that hadn't bowed knee. You know. And sometimes as Christian people, we feel like we're all alone. In a world full of hate, in a world full of chaos. And sometimes we have to come to a point, like Jessica was talking about there, that we have to realize there's other people around. And if you think the things that's going on in your life are so huge, and they're so massive, just look around and you'll find someone just like she did that makes you feel so insignificant that your problems mean absolutely nothing to you. And then you look at these other people and you wonder, how in the world do they even cope with life after this? And it's just like she said, it's not the end. We have this thing in our human nature as looking at things as coming to an end. With God, nothing comes to an end. God is cylindrical. I hate to see these. You see these lines they put across from AD this to whatever that. You know, nothing with God is a straight line. God is cylindrical. When you begin to study the Hebrew and you begin to study the different ways that God works, you always remember God is cylindrical. 59 minutes is never an hour. You know, I don't care how many times you go around in that circle, if you stop at 59, you never complete the circle. You know, you got to go to 60 to make it complete. God, the universe works in circles. Everything about God is in circles. It's in time frames like that. There's no straight lines with God. There's no beginnings and there's no ends. Everything is cylindrical. And we have to realize that in our life, that's the way our life works. We begin at a certain point. God said, like I was telling someone today, we were talking about how that God has the ability to forget. We don't have that ability. God said, I put your sins behind me as far as the east is from the west. I don't care how far you go east, you will never go west. You will always go east. You know? And that's the way God is. God forgives. And he has the capacity to forget. We do not have that capacity. We have the capacity to forgive, but we don't have the capacity to forget. For us to forget is foolishness. Because that's where wisdom comes in. Wisdom is knowledge guided by understanding, is what wisdom is. Wisdom is the thing, knowledge is the things that we learn in this life. We gain understanding from it. And from the understanding of that, we learn to be able to apply it, and it becomes wisdom to us. So we have to, as Christian, or, and there may be some people who are not Christian. If I'm offending you, then good, okay? You know, and I'm very bold, okay? I'm an extremely bold person. I don't usually worry about what I say. I used to travel around and preach at a lot of different churches, and because I was doing evangelistic work, it has a certain freedom to it. I'm not like a lot of pastors, and there's a pastor here somewhere. Where is, I don't know if they're still here. There we go. And you know, when you become the pastor of a place, Homestead Preacher was here a while ago. I don't know if they're still here. They may be gone. Or they may be downstairs. There he is, back there. There's brother Donnie, and Sister Jennifer. And there's so many times when you preach to congregations, pastors, because I've been there, you feel like you're limited because you get to know all the people, and when you go to start preaching, and your congregation sometimes look at you and go, oh, you know, he knows about me. And he's preaching directly to me. You know, and there's one thing about doing evangelistic type work is you don't have to worry about it. You don't know. And you have a certain freedom. Who was at our house the other day? Lindsay and her husband from Luceville over here. He's going to kill me because I'm David Whitaker from Luceville over here. Great man. In the oil field business, comes home on his days off, he preaches every day somewhere. That's what he loves doing. And he said, brother, I'm an evangelist. He says, I have a freedom that pastors and churches don't have. He says, I can throw it out there, and I don't have to worry about who I make mad, because I'm not going to be there next week, you know? and there is a freedom to that, and there's a freedom for me to be able to get up here today, because look, even though I know a lot of you people, and I don't know anything about you, I don't know anything about what you're going through. When I read a little bit about Daniel and Jessica, I've done a little background research. I'm sorry, but I do that. You know, I love them. It was instant. You know, because you not meet in a public building. It says they went daily
from house to house, proclaiming the name of God, of Christ. And to be honest with you, I think that's where we're headed. I think we're headed back to going house to house. Because I think it's going to come to a point where if you're not a, what is it, a 501c3, if you're not one of those, and you do not comply. Do y'all realize that Adolf Hitler, that's how he actually started in Germany? I'm going to be doing history now. I mean, literally, the churches had to comply. The Nazis would drive by, and if they saw the thing on the door at the church, they would pass it by because it had complied. They did not pay any attention to it. It was only the ones that did not comply. And I believe in this country is coming to a point where if a church does not comply with certain, I have to watch my language, certain hate speech, I think that would probably be more appropriate. You have certain phrases you can't say, it becomes hate speech, hate crimes, and stuff like this. Guys, I only know how to say it one way. Sin is sin. I don't categorize it. I don't care if you stole a roll of black electrical tape or if you murdered somebody. Both of those hung him on the cross. You know what? Both of them hung him on the cross. The one that murdered somebody is no more guilty than the guy who took the roll of black electrical tape. When you stand before him, and you will, well, I shouldn't say you're going to stand before him, because it says every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. You will fall on your face before him. Am I not right, brother? You will fall on your face before him because of why? Because he's awesome. Do we not realize, you know what the problem in the Western country is today? We don't understand kingship. Do you realize that when Esther, her own husband, if she went before him and he was a king and she did not present herself properly and she did not do it right, he'd have her prosecuted and put away, murdered, whatever you want to call it, put to death. And it was her own husband. Why? Because he was a king. And kings had total authority. And today we call the man upstairs. You know, Jesus is my co-pilot. You know, all these things. I'm telling you, we limit God and we treat him with, we call it reverence. No, we don't even understand what the word reverence means in a Western country. God is omnipotent. He is omnipresent. He is everything. He has always been. He will always be. And I have news for you. You will always be something. Think about that. You had a beginning, but you will never have an end. That's mind-boggling. You had a beginning, but you will never have an end. And that end will be determined only by you. God is not one of these types. He does not push himself on anybody. He gives you a free will. He may lead you and he may guide you, but the ultimate decision will be yours as to where you spend eternity. And I think it's time in this nation that we actually stop and we take a moment and we actually sit and we think about that very thought. Because the honest to God truth is, guys, our days are short. They're very short. We talk about homestead. But do you know what homesteading really is? Homesteading is just living. It's living the way God intended for us to live. It's not living under the persecution and the thumbnail of a government. Now, the Bible does speak about government, and it says you are to honor your government. You render unto Caesar what's Caesar. You know, if we're to honor the laws in the land because he tells us they're there for your protection. But they're also there if you get out of line. You know, I mean, they're there for that reason. And you're to render unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar simply because you've got to fund it and you've got to pay for it. So, you know, we've read books about paying taxes. I'm no different. The only thing that makes me mad is when I see my tax money used for stuff like what's going on in New York up there. That's when I get upset. Guys, look, it's people like in this building today in small communities, small congregations, or bodies of people, I hate to use the word congregation, but small bodies of people that will make a difference in the world where we live today. I can't do it by myself. Jessica, Daniel, them, Maya, they can't do it by themselves. You can't do it by yourself. We're all part of a giant plan by God. I watched Daniel's video the other day where he was streets of New Orleans. I was watching that, brother, where the man was laying there and, you know, you give him a cup of coffee, you know, and then you played for him. He wanted you to play, what was it, Rockabye Baby or something like that? And you played him one of your songs, I think it was, and the guy just fell asleep. To me, that was heartbreaking, you know, to just, that's what it's all about, you know, that's what it's all about. I gotta quit, okay. I know, when God gets a hold of me, I can't quit sometimes. I have to just stop. You know, I'm like Jessica now. You always have to tell me shut up.
This is what I live with every day.
She lives with this all the time. You know? It doesn't matter where I go. I'm just open. I'm free. I feel like I don't have any boundaries. Well, I do have boundaries, but I mean, I don't have any boundaries as far as speech about God. Let me say that. I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And I know one day I'm going to get in trouble for it because I don't want to shut up. Okay, we got to thank y'all. Thank you so much.
We need to tell everybody too, down on this end is the, what do we call them, raffles and
The
things
raffles.
like that. We have a Cabela 9-tray dehydrator, a quilt. I mean, there's all kinds of things over here. If you want to go over, we'll give you about 30 minutes to browse through and put on before we do a drawing.
Okay, you want to give everybody an opportunity to pass by the raffle table and the other things there before we actually do the drawings for the raffle.
Yeah.
Oh, she has a raffle right now. Okay.
Drawing for us.
Where's she drawing for?
Beats early under call. That's my name. Can I go to the other side? Hold on. Angela Matt. Is that look right? Or something Matt? M-A-T-T?
Angela Matt.
Something like that. Anybody? Angela Matt, or that's what it looks like. Okay.
Oh, that's to the side.
Next. Rachel Rumbo.
Right there.
These things or just Rachel?
All right.
All right, so we're gonna give some time to go.
All right, you have like 30 minutes. We're going to let everybody look at stuff, do whatever you want to do, mingle or whatever for a few minutes, and then we're going to come right back.
All right, so we're doing an intermission for a little bit.
There's still food down
I'm gonna
below.
cut the
and some
live
people did not
stream.
pick up
I
their
got my
pre-orders
phone
of
charging, that's
food
why
and
it
cookies
cut out
and stuff
earlier.
like
So
that.
I'm gonna cut the live stream right now.
Yeah.
Go over to Tooth Family Homestead. They've got it live right now, and I'll pick back up here in a little bit. Let my phone charge up a little bit. We'll check you
Okay,
out here in
people
just
have
a few
orders
minutes.
downstairs.